communications between ourselves, we move the world forward. I think it lends perhaps a better chance towards achieving improvement as we look to improve Canada, which is a never-ending work in progress. So thank you for your efforts on that front. I wanted to just bring some greetings and say to you that it's been an incredible honor and a privilege to serve as an elected public servant now for almost 17 years. And previous to that, had the opportunity to serve for 10 years in the Privy Council office in the Government of Canada as a public servant, an unelected public servant. And before that, my wife and I had the privilege of serving abroad for almost 8 years, working in somewhere around 70 countries, living in Africa, living in London, England, living in Rome, Italy. And along the way, every time we moved to a new location in a continent, we had another child. So when we moved back to Canada, my wife made me promise it was the last time we moved. So we are well ensconced here now. The kids are older, all 4 of them, and they're off and launched, doing the best they can. And it is still a great privilege to work here with folks on local issues, as well as working on, as James mentioned, my responsibilities as the chair of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, which is a great honor and privilege and unique. It is the first time in Canadian history that such a committee has been created, where all parties are represented in both houses, the Senate and the House of Commons, and 11 of us work together on highly classified information in a secure lockdown location to be able to review the work, the conduct, the powers, the balance achieved by our security and intelligence actors in Canada. So it's a great privilege, but a big responsibility. So I wanted to share that with you as well. It's a new part of my own responsibilities that started 3.5 years ago. So I can't speak in too much detail about the work until the work is made public. It's redacted to make sure that no classified information is made public. So I'd be very open to chatting about that or taking any questions you might have. So I'm not sure, James, if you'd like me to say much more than that. I just wanted to bring greetings and turn it over back to you and everybody who's online.
Thank you, Mr. McGuinty. I think, thanks so much for sharing those greetings. And I think you really, I'm getting some messages in the chat that people thought your marks are really right on the money for these times. So thanks so much for those words.
Thank you.
Wonderful. We might have a few questions, time permitting, just about communication issues afterwards, if you can hang on. But I want to extend the invitation to Councillor Cloutier to speak as well. And Mr. Cloutier, I've got a little bit of a short bio I'd like to share with the group here to introduce you to everyone who's not from the area. Briefly, Jean Cloutier is a lifelong resident of Ottawa as well. He's lived in Alta Vista for more than 3 decades. He previously served as CFO of Tubman Funeral Homes, and early in his career, he was the owner of the Town Cinema and the Bytown Cinema. Definitely, I'm a movie lover, so an institution in this town that we're missing right now. Mr. Cloutier was re-elected as municipal councillor for Alta Vista in 2018. He's chair of the city's audit committee, vice chair of the transit commission, member of the Finance and Environment Committees and the Ottawa Board of Health. Jean is also vice president of the Association of Francophone Municipalities of Ontario and treasurer of the Ottawa Film Board. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Councillor Jean Cloutier.
Well, good afternoon. Bon après-midi, tout le monde. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak with you today at Speaker's Corner's Toastmasters Club. I salute you, and I certainly congratulate you on this anniversary. Merci de m'avoir invité aujourd'hui. Bonjour, Monsieur le Toastmaster and Mr. President Mihaichuk, other guests, colleagues, David McGuinty, and our other colleague, MPP John Fraser. Certainly is a pleasure and a privilege to speak with you today. I certainly appreciate your time and attention. We're all communicators. From our first cry, we have a story to tell or a need to be filled. And if I might, whether it be yelling in the House of Commons or at Queen's Park, nobody does it quite the same. And you will note that I made no mention of any yelling at City of Ottawa Council chambers. My father was not a public speaker, but certainly a communicator. He was a translator in the House of Commons. He'd studied in 6 languages: English, French, German, Russian, Greek, and Latin. He had to bring the flavor, the texture, as David would know, and the subtleties of debate to the written record of Parliament. And it wasn't easy. We don't translate words, we translate meanings, messages. That's what we do when we communicate. My father was passionate about this country and the challenges it faces in helping people understand each other, to understand each other. He taught his 6 children how we as Canadians live in the best country in the world. We've been given the best opportunity to create the most amazing society in the world. To do that, we will have to talk, we will have to exchange, we will have to listen and understand. And the basis of that is language and culture and context. I'm so thankful that I grew up in a bilingual city like Ottawa and in this country. It might be hard sometimes to tell, but English is my second language. Je suis francophone, which means that sometimes my thoughts come to me in French and I need to quickly rearrange them to English. Sometimes, as we live in an Anglophone environment here in Ottawa, the reverse is true. And I recognize that some of you might have English as a second language, and your thoughts could be coming to you in Ethiopian or Farsi or Mandarin or Ukrainian or any number of other languages. And to you in particular, remember to embrace that part of yourself at Toastmasters and in your everyday lives. It's what contributes to your uniqueness as a speaker. You never know who'll be listening and what difference those details can make for someone else. Like most of you, I first really started public speaking in school, and for many that was terrifying, but not so much for me. I don't know why. Maybe in a family of 2 parents and 6 children, there had to be talking and taking and communicating and convincing, or otherwise you just weren't heard. Culture and language are important, but it's also important to understand how your own mind works. I'm an accountant by profession. My mind is exceptionally good with numbers. Perhaps your mind works the same way, or there's a similar, your brain can contextualize information. If it does, use that too. Explore the way your brain operates and find a way to utilize that. It's a great asset. I can tell you what happened on a certain date, how that relates to another date, and I do the same with numbers. Sometimes a fun party trick, but it can also be very useful to give perspective and trends. My father called it the brutal eloquence of numbers, l'éloquence brutale des chiffres. I've lived in the ward for 35 years in the Canterbury area, and I first became interested in the Canterbury Community Association in 1987, offering my support as Director of Finance, a pretty good fit, and I was elected as President of the Canterbury Community Association. I'm now City Councillor in my 2nd term, and the difference in communication strategies is significant. After I was elected in 2014, I met Maurice Bélanger, late MP and a colleague of David's. He congratulated me and told me that as a new politician, I would have to give several speeches, des discours. He told me to focus on the second part of that word, court, keep it short. I hope I've passed along a little experience from my own life and some of you might find helpful. Embrace your unique perspective. There's value to your community there. Find what works for you. Fundamentally, as a politician, I have learned this lesson. If I want to communicate well, I have to listen well. You've been very generous with the amount of time you've given me and the kind attention you've provided. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cloutier. And you're absolutely right on so many levels about many of the things you mentioned. I'll note just a few that one was about the necessity to communicate in all of the languages that we bring to the table, and to understand the importance, the value of these cultural competencies that people in our community are bringing forward. So one of the things I think Toastmasters is really great at is providing that icebreaker speech opportunity where people can get up and practice if English is not their first language, likewise in French. There are bilingual clubs. And I know Julie Salgado is here, and she would probably wrap my knuckles if I didn't mention one of the causes she's passionate about, which is a new club called Hasta Pronto, which is the first Spanish language Toastmasters club in Ottawa, where people can practice getting together and trying out a little Spanish. And I understand even Catalan, as well as what might be their working day, everyday languages, English, French, what have you. Quickly, while I have you both here, because I understand, either one of you might be called away to do other things. I would like to give you both an opportunity to answer the most basic one of the questions I had for you, which was, who was the person who most influenced your communication style? So, Mr. Cloutier, since you already have the floor, why don't you share with us, who was that influence on you?
Thank you. I would have to say my father. And again, he was not a public speaker. He was, but again, a communicator. But he always encouraged all of us to communicate well, to stick to the basics, to be respectful, to mostly listen. And I think that served me well. And so my father, in his philosophy, in his disposition, in his commitment to helping people understand each other in the way he did as a translator in a very important institution in the House of Commons and in the Senate of Canada, wanting to make sure that all Canadians understood each other, and that was the basis for finding consensus and for the respectful dialogue, with sometimes very difficult circumstances, as I see MPP Fraser has joined us as my elected colleagues here in Ottawa South and in Alta Vista will attest to, some of the very difficult issues that we sometimes deal with.
That's very good. I wasn't aware that Mr. Fraser was here, but now that I open up the gallery, I do see that John Fraser, our member of provincial parliament for Ottawa South, is here. Sorry, I missed the fact that you were indicated as by your iPad, sir. Please take the floor, Mr. Fraser, and if you'd unmute, or I could help you with that, we'd love to hear a few words from you.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks very much, and congratulations on this big anniversary, and for all the work that you do to help people communicate in public. It's a really important thing to do, not only in public but just in between, in between each other. I'm of course the MPP for Ottawa South, and didn't do a lot of public speaking before I got elected. And it's something that I enjoy doing. And I think the thing that, just on what Jean said, my father was a big influence on me. And the biggest part was listening, right? Was to listen. And the second piece was simplicity and clarity in language. And the third thing was, if you can have people remember one thing of what you said in a public speaking opportunity, if you connect it to them, that's success. And so it's been hard to, I've always worked to try and achieve that. And I think that like anything else, it's just repetition. That's what I find in my work. Just practice. Having to do it every day gives you a sense of comfort and confidence, especially when it relates to subject matter, and also the time that you take to prepare. And that I learned from my former, really learned from my former boss. And David's here as well, his brother, Dalton McGuinty. somebody who spent a lot of time preparing and getting ready with his speeches, and spent a lot of time writing them and rewriting them, which is, the more you put into it, the better the product is. So, anyways, it's for politicians like Jean, David, and I, we get the grounds on which to be able to do that on a regular basis, and to practice, and time to prepare. And so that's why the work that you do is important to, because that's not something that people commonly get. We can get better because we have the opportunity. It's part of our work. And it's something that I'm really grateful for as a representative of the people. And but I'll leave it at that, because I apologize for being late, but the assembly doesn't go by my schedule. So we had votes and a quick scrum, and that caused my delay today. I want to thank you for your patience in inviting me.
Well, thank you for attending, sir. And we understand completely the nature of your work and your schedule. So not to worry at all. I wanted to throw the floor back to Mr. McGuinty to just hear briefly from him as to who was the person who most influenced you in your communication style and how you undertake public speaking.
Thank you very much, James. And John, good to see you. Keep up the good work, fighting for our vaccines and vaccine rollout. So much appreciated. It's funny, I have many influences. We were blessed to have been raised by parents who demonstrated first and foremost that they actually were able to communicate with each other. As my mother used to give the same advice to every one of her 10 children on the day of their wedding. It was very simple. She would say, whatever happens, just keep talking. And she demonstrated that throughout her life with my dad. But we were also very fortunate because my father was a Shakespearean literature professor and a magnificent orator. Someone I hope to be able to live up to the same standard, who demonstrated an ability for public speaking that was rare, but also honed over 30 years of practice and rehearsal. And he used to say that anybody who says that public speaking is easy is either a terrible liar or a terrible speaker. It's very difficult. And so I have adapted a couple of things over the years I would like to share, James, with folks for their consideration about public speaking. The first thing I like to do is slow down. And I regularly coach parliamentary colleagues. And one of the first things I try to impress upon them is I say, I don't golf, but people who do golf often say, slow down your swing in order to hit the ball. And so I like to think as a public speaker, it's important to slow down your swing, to be able to get less. Sometimes less is better than more. So that's one thing, one technique I work on: cadence, the speed with which I speak. The second thing would be I try not to read speeches. I used to. It's nervous energy, but what I would do instead is distill to 4 or 5 bullet points on a sheet of paper, les grandes lignes, the major themes I'm hoping to impart to an audience. And I remember always the definition of rhetoric. The Greeks defined rhetoric as the art of producing conviction in one's listeners. The art of producing conviction in one's listeners. So when I speak to 4 or 5 bullet points, colleagues, I try to speak extemporaneously. And the third thing I always keep in my mind when I'm speaking, particularly if I'm giving a speech to a larger group or in the House, is I imagine myself speaking to my aunts and my uncles in their 70s and 80s at a kitchen table over a cup of tea. if I'm not able to choose language and communicate an idea that's complex to them at that table, then I haven't succeeded. So I try to be careful with big words or buzzwords or acronyms or concepts that people are perfectly capable of understanding, but often aren't put to them in terms that they can understand. So those are some of the tips I've followed. And finally, I think both Jean and John have mentioned empathy, I think, is what the word they used. I commend them for the word. You know, increasingly now in the corporate world, I think this is everywhere. When they talk about CEOs, of course, CEO stands for Chief Executive Officer. But increasingly, what I've learned is that CEO really stands for Chief Empathy Officer. Because as one is empathetic, which requires listening, real listening and hearing, one is signaling to people with whom they're communicating a validation of the points that they're making, a respect for what they're saying. So I would keep those ideas in mind as you hone your skills. And finally, it was Hemingway who once said, another great anecdote I use from time to time, anybody who says, he was asked about his writing, forgive me, he was asked about his writing, and he made it look so easy. And Hemingway looked to the journalist and said, "You're right. All I do is sit down at the typewriter and I sweat blood. That's how easy it is." In other words, public speaking is a never-ending quest for improvement. It's a work in progress. So I encourage all of you to keep at it. I certainly am. And thank you for allowing me to join you again, James, and all Toastmasters who are here today. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. McGuinty. Could we have a big round of visual applause for all of our guests today? Thank you so much for joining and sharing your thoughts and helping us celebrate our 20th anniversary at Speaker's Corner Toastmasters. Thank you all. I want to take a quick moment before we proceed with the rest of our agenda to give a shout out to some of the people who make Toastmasters happen in this mighty big district called District 61 that extends from Kingston to Quebec City, as I said, with a few places on the Seaway in New York State included. So if you could wave hands vigorously or perhaps unmute and say hello so we can be sure you pop up on screen, that would be wonderful. First of all, Kimberly Dueck is here. She is a director of District 61. Please say hello, Kimberly.
Hi, everybody. A huge congratulations to all my friends here at Speaker's Corner. Love you guys and love seeing you. We'll be back soon.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Tanya Hall, who is our program quality director, please say a quick hello.
Welcome, everybody. What an honor to be 20 years as a club. That is no small feat, especially going through challenges. So congratulations to you all for sticking with it and enduring your journey as a Toastmaster. Back to you.
Thank you, Tanya. And I don't think we have Amy Campbell, who is the club growth director, but she was going to try. She
sends her apologies for not being able to make it, but she wishes you all the best and congratulations.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kimberly. And then I think we have Julie Salgado, who's doing multiple duties as multiple area directors and interim director of Division D. Julie, would you say hello to the crowd and let them know who you are really quickly?
Hello, everyone. I am so inspired by these wonderful speakers today, and I echo everything that Tanya and Kimberly have said about congratulations on 20 awesome years. And I look forward to your next decade and your next decades. So keep up the great work.
Thank you, Julie. And Alex, our area director in Area 32, would you please share a few words really quick?
Yeah, hi, everybody. Thank you again for the invitation and congratulations. It's a blessing to be here with you all.
Thank you, Alex. And then last but not least by any means, I want to give the floor really quickly to somebody who's helped me out on a couple of things and always been very welcoming, and then helped our entire club with having the pairing of his club with ours. And that's the current president of NDHQ Carling Toastmasters, Paul Jacobs. Paul, would you please say hello to the group?
Hello, and congratulations on 20 years. It's a great achievement, and we would look forward to working with you in the coming days, years, months, and it's we're having a great collaborative effort, and it's just a wonderful experience. And thank you so much for this, our guest speakers today, and such a great 20-year anniversary celebration.
Thank you, Paul. Now, if we go by the agenda, we're a bit late on time, but I think we'd be remiss, and it would be too much of a departure from Toastmasters tradition if we didn't try and give some time to our table topics master, Jessica Brichta, who will be leading the group in some really quick, I hope, impromptu speaking exercises. Jessica.
Thank you, James. Table topic session is our fun impromptu speaking time on the agenda, where a couple volunteers, some brave volunteers who we're going to salute shortly, will give us, I'll give you a quote, and the theme of the meeting today is celebration. So this will be a celebratory quote, and you have 1.5 to 2 minutes to talk about the quote, what that means to you. And I will ask our wonderful timer, Margaret, to hold up the cards for us at 1 minute for the green, 1 minute 30 for the yellow, and 2 minutes for the red, so we keep to time. This is a really important skill, because you never know when an opportunity is going to present itself, or you need to be able to quickly and concisely articulate an idea. Maybe the CEO comes upon you and you happen to take the same elevator. So having that skill is very important to our professional development, and it's one that we need to practice. So without further ado, I'm going to ask for 3 volunteers to respond to a quote that I'm going to give you. I see a hand there for Will. Can I get 2 more brave volunteers for today? Julie, wonderful. I saw your hand there. And I need 1 more. And I'm scrolling between the 2 screens. Marie Paul, excellent. Thank you so much. All right. So I will give Wilf his quote, and then we'll just make 1 further note. So each candidate has a few seconds to think about that as the speaker prior is speaking. Wilf, your celebration quote will be, this is from Jürgen Klopp: "Life is too short not to celebrate nice moments." And as Wilf is thinking about that for a moment, I just wanted to remind everyone in the room to listen carefully to the speeches that we are about to get. And everyone, guests included, are going to be invited at the end to vote, to send me a direct message with your favorite speaker, and we will announce the winner of today's session later in the meeting. So just before Will speaks, I'm going to give Julie her quote. Julie, oh, I just lost my screen. 1 moment, please. Sorry about the delay. Julie, the quote that I have selected for you today is by Thomas Acton, who said, "Every day of your life is a special occasion." So while you're thinking about that, I'm going to hand the floor over to Wilf. Wilf, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and very welcome guests. I'm 85 and still alive. And so life is short, because we know I know at my age, I'm on the back 9, to quote all the golfers. And it is too short, life is too short not to celebrate everything. Right now, of course, the last year, we've all been, most of us have been locked down, confined to barracks with the, excuse me, with the pandemic. And how I celebrate, how I keep my sanity is by telephoning my family and my friends. And I spend almost 2 hours at least every day on the phone with various people just to keep in touch, because that's what keeps me alive. You got to connect with people. And that's what it's all about. Madam Table Topics Master.
Wonderful. Thank you, Will. And just before Julie speaks, I'm going to give Marie Paul the quote that she will be responding to today, which is from Oprah Winfrey, who says, "The more you celebrate your life, the more there is in life to celebrate." With that, I'm going to hand the floor over to Julie.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Every day of your life is a special occasion. That's a beautiful quote. And every day, my objective is to find a pocket of happiness. Whether it is looking at the flowers blossoming as I walk in the neighborhood, or it's a hug that my son gives me just randomly because he's 11 and he still likes to hug me. Or even a moment when my cranky teenagers take the time and tell me something special about their day, because that means that they love me and I care about them, and they're bringing me into their lives. And so why pockets of happiness? Pockets of happiness are my savior for difficult moments, for wonderful moments, and it's a way for me to remember the good things. And the hardest part to have a pocket of happiness is during those difficult times, but that is when it is the most important. To find those slivers of hope, to find those opportunities to dream, and to remember the good things, the simple things that can make you happy, and the simple things that remind us that there is good, there is hope, and there is future, and to enjoy our day every day. Madam Table Topics.
Thank you, Julie. I'm now going to hand the floor over to Marie Paul to respond to our final celebration quote. Marie Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Table Topic. It's a pleasure to be here again. The quote you gave me is, "The more you celebrate, the more there is to celebrate." And I'm really grateful that I moved to Toronto, close to the lake, because every day I celebrate sunrise from the east and sunset from the west from my view out my window. And every day I celebrate the new things I discover, because I don't know anybody in Toronto except a handful of people that I meet online every now and then, but I celebrate any new discovery. And I'd like to go to the lake every day, helps me think. And I like to be with, like, a river is like something that flows, and I like to flow along with it. So every day I go in a different direction. So I discover new things because I don't know anything about the waterfront. So the waterfront is miles and miles and miles, and there's so much to discover. And this is my way of celebrating life, because you don't know what tomorrow is gonna bring to you or to your life. So live every day as if you were a river and flow along with it. Madam Table Topic Master.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marie Paul. With that, I'd like to thank all of our brave contestants. I certainly salute all of you in stepping up and speaking on the spot today. Just as a quick summary of today's wonderful table topic session, Wilf talked about the importance of connecting with people and keeping in touch, especially with friends and family in these difficult times. Julie talked about finding those pockets of happiness, remembering the simple and good things that make life worthwhile. And Marie Paul talked about celebrating new discoveries in a new city and exploring the waterfront in her area. With those wonderful sessions, I would now like to ask all of our guests, Toastmasters, elected officials, and the honored guests here today to send me a direct message and let me know who you think is the winner of today's table topic session. With that, I will turn the floor back to our Toastmaster, James.
Thank you, Jessica, for squeezing in an abbreviated but very excellent table topics session. I'd now like to quickly hand the floor to Karen Breek, our general evaluator. A big part of any Toastmasters meeting is that we receive feedback on how the meeting's gone, or if somebody's presenting a prepared speech, they're getting detailed feedback in the moment from an evaluator of their speech. Karen's role is to help us evaluate the meeting as a whole. So over to you, Karen, and let us know how we did today.
Thank you, James. So a big salute to everyone who is still with us right now to help with this unusual meeting where we hopefully are a little bit different than normal, because we're celebrating a pretty special day. I recognize I have a big shout out myself to Ron Edma. Back in the day, as we said, this club started over 20 years ago out of the National Defence Medical Center, where I was still serving and having to salute on a regular basis. And he brought me to my first Toastmasters meeting in around 2008. So again, thank you to Ron, and where I've seen Wilf every time in every meeting since then as the one continuity throughout everyone that's come in and left. Thank you again to both Ron and Wilf as part of our celebrations. As was mentioned by James, this is normally where we shift now and look at our evaluation of how can we still do things better. This meeting's a little bit different than normal, so we're not going to do a real evaluation on our political speeches from today, but we will still do some of our other normal activities. So if we could ask our timer, Margaret, to pass on how have we done today for staying on time. Margaret.
Thank you very much, Karen, our general evaluator. And that's part of Toastmasters. These cards, we try and keep us on time. And with a celebration, it's so tricky just to streamline everything. But James has done an excellent job by opening exactly at noon and a little bit ahead of time. And he zoomed us into the different breakout rooms. We started with our Toastmaster at 12:05, and then our introductory toast by Wilf was 1 minute and 29 seconds, and Elizabeth Schaefer did her grammarian 45 seconds with the word of the day salute. Then we had our humorist Ronald 1 minute and 17 seconds with a wonderful joke. And then we had our various speakers. And David McGuinty did 3 minutes and 36 seconds with his introductory opening. Then we had our second speaker, Jean, and his was 4 minutes and 56 seconds. And our third speaker, John Fraser, and he did 2 minutes and 56 seconds. Then we launched into our table topics, and the table topics, Wilf was 51 seconds. And then we had Julie 1 minute and 29 seconds, and Marie Paul at 1 minute and 14 seconds. And that's my timers report. And back to you, Karen.
Thank you, Margaret, and a salute to you as well. Although you haven't been part of this club for 20 years, you have certainly been keeping us together over the last few years. So I salute to all of your help and support as well. With no further ado, we'll move forward to our grammarian report. Elizabeth, how have we done?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. For someone who is listening for thoughtful quotes, inspirational ideas, this meeting was filled with inspirations, insights, not only from our wonderful 3 guest speakers, but also from our table topics speakers. I just want to say thank you for wonderful, inspiring tips that I will take, and I'm sure lots of us will take away as well. I heard a few filler words in there, but I was very impressed with the use of salute for the word of the day. Thank you very much, all of you. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Elizabeth. If we could now move to Jessica. So hopefully everyone has already put their direct message in and said who they are voting for, and we will now find out our results. Jessica, who won our table topics?
Quick drum roll, everyone. All of our candidates, our speakers, received votes, and the winner today was Julie for her Pockets of Happiness speech. I salute all of you. Thank you so much for participating, and congratulations to Julie. Back to you, Karen.
So normally there would be a little bit more about a general evaluator report. However, especially given the crowd we have here, I know a number of people are looking forward to a moment to socialize. So with no further ado, I will pass it back to James as our Toastmaster. James.
Thank you so much, Karen. I am most impressed by your ability to make up time and still hit all the key points of evaluation. It's a testament to your experience as a Toastmaster and to the overall excellence of the club here at Speaker's Corner and the work we've been doing online with our friends in our sister club at NDHQ Carling Toastmasters. I would like to formally adjourn the meeting. Don't have the gavel today, but it's adjourned, and I'd like to throw open the floor, open up your mics, say hellos, maybe one at a time. This might be a time to incorporate gesture because this will be an unmoderated session, maybe to kick it off. I'd like to put Wendy on the spot. Wendy, why don't you go open mic, because you have a long heritage with this club as well. And why don't you kick off some discussion of the old timers here? And we'll try and implicate the newcomers, such as there may be as well.
Well, thank you very much, James. I think you can see my gray hair on this my screen. I thought I was hiding it, but that's great. I started in with Speaker's Corners in 2012, either before or after Karen. I'm usually following her footsteps, but I might have been before her on this one. And it's so good to be here today and see so many familiar faces. Who came next? Who came after me? Cheryl would have been one of the next one. What about you, Cheryl?
Well, you introduced me to Speaker's Corner, so thank you very much, because we had worked together, and I remember going over to our first meeting at the conference board, or my first meeting at the conference board back in 2015, and I joined the next day and got quite busy. Otherwise, I would have still been at Speaker's Corner, but so great to see Ron, Wilf, Adriana, haven't seen you for ages, and Jackie, Marie, Paul, and Karen. I know you're waving at me, but so nice to see everybody here today for sure.
I think I joined before all you guys, because I remember Ron and Wilf, but I joined very shortly after 2001, potentially even in 2001 while I was still in uniform. I remember John Munkitrick and a few other people that were there just temporarily. It's been a long time.
I'd like to give a special thank you to James for coordinating such a fabulous open house. He did a lot of work behind the scenes, and I'd like to give him a big round of applause.
Well, thank you, Mark. That's much appreciated. But there's a lot of people involved, and I'll say one of the things I've been doing, one of those Toastmasters things, is an HBL project, high performance leadership, and part of that has been about trying to reframe the way our club operates to be more digital friendly. And so some of the people who've been helping me with that are Elizabeth and Adriana and Alex, who was introduced earlier. So that's been really great, because that gives me a way to focus and keep coming back to it over time, and take some time, a couple of months out, and keep building up to this day so that we can put our best foot forward. And it helps to do that with a team to give you suggestions and coaching and feedback.
And I'd also like to welcome Gada, our newest member to Speaker's Corners. I will give her a large round of applause. And
And I
know
welcome.
there's supposed to be a big voting in ceremony, and we have most of our executive here. So all those in favor of voting in Gada as a member, they can raise your hand.
There we go.
Yes, okay.
It's so
Nice seeing you, Cheryl.
It's such a wonderful occasion to be joining the club. I'm truly humbled and inspired by everybody's contributions, and I'm very excited to grow with the club as well. Thank you so much.
That's great. Welcome, Gada.
James, I appreciate you welcoming or inviting particularly David McGuinty, because I remember him. I was impressed by him about 15 or more years ago when all the candidates from that area in a federal election were invited to our meeting, and we listened to their speech and we gave them an evaluation of that speech. And what impressed me the most about David McGuinty was the fact that he had been in Africa, sort of like a Canadian Peace Corps worker, and he and his wife, he mentioned that earlier, that he and his wife had been there and done all these things. And this is what impressed me so much about him, his personal stories, his type of individual that he is. And I still remember that, and we're going back almost 15 or 16 years ago when that happened. And so I remember that, and he was very good today too. So, and it's good to see everybody. Nice always to see you, Elizabeth, all the way from way up north. And nice to see Marie-Paul again, Jackie Doucette, and Cheryl.
Yes, Marie-Paul, it's so good to see you. I love your virtual background. Big virtual hugs.
Well, there's our guest, the little BB. It's always good to have him there. He's going to be a tremendous communicator when it's all over.
Our little Toastmaster in training.
Yeah, but
since he started 3 months ago, he's had perfect attendance.
Yes, and we need like we have an awe counter as part of the grammarian role, and sometimes we have a smile counter now, but we need like a cry counter and a gurgle counter and a goo goo counter. Yeah, it's a good time.
We're teething now too.
Yeah. Okay. Cry counter. Yeah.
But you always have your own cheerleader there too, Jesse?
Jessica, I must say that
Girl Guide cookies are delicious. She sent me some Girl Guide cookies here just the other day.
Yes, the cookies are fabulous, and one box has totally disappeared already, so the other ones are hidden. And for those who don't know, Jessica loves guiding, and she did a fabulous job of deliveries of Girl Guide cookies, and I have to hide them from my husband because he just loves the chocolate Miss Minty cookies.
We really appreciate the support.
Well, I gave one box to my daughter. She bought my groceries and brought them over, so I gave her a box. She was a guide at one time.
Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know that.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to run, and thank you, everybody. And
great job.
Celebration. Thank you.
So good to see you, Marie-Paul. We miss you.
Tanya Hall, it's nice of you to come. She's gone, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people had to jet for other meetings, so I think we did pretty well. We had a good, a sufficient opportunity to just kibitz around here and say hellos, which is wonderful. I think it's really important today, and with like trying to do the compressed 1 hour format with 3 sitting politicians as guests, and do table topics and evaluations is a bit ambitious, but we got it done. So good on us.
Fantastic.
Oh, it's fantastic. It was such a good meeting.
Great anniversary meeting. It was good to see you, Ron. And Paul.
Always great.
All right, everybody take care. Have a good week. We'll see you
come
next
back.
week.
Yeah.
You too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Congratulations.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.
Have a great day.